See, the problem with you is you rarely exercise your self-discipline muscle. You just go with the flow. No backbone whatsoever. And that's perfectly fine until you start whining and complaining about your lack of success.
Is that at some point along the way, we get confused and we misunderstand who we are. We start building this false sense of self around all the stories and all the labels and all the things. And we start living our life that way. And we get confused about how life works, how we interact with life. And we start living much smaller than we really are.
See, if you go through life holding back, and most of us do, most of us, if we ask ourselves, have we done all we can do? Most of us will have to answer, no, we haven't. We've been holding back.
All the great things in my life, all the great things in other high achievers' lives, all the reasons that these successful people that you look up to, that you aspire to be like, are the way they are, have all come from a place of being uncomfortable.
All successful people, if they fail by trying greatly, not by playing it safe and wishing and hoping that everything will work out all right in the future. What they do is they take great risks with no guarantee of success, and so can you.
Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. Keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship.
You have to learn to perform without motivation. You have to learn to perform without purpose. You have to learn to perform a lot of different things. And that's what people think. They think I need to have this motivation to work out, to study, to be better. So if they don't have it, they just don't do it. And that's where you fail. You have to learn to train your mind well beyond motivation. If you have motivation, that's great. That's some kindling to the fire. All it takes is a little bit of spark, you can burn the whole forest up. You have to be your best self when you're least motivated. And that's the tricky part about all that. Motivation is just a word.
You can't get out of something that you're not willing to put into it. You have to put your everything, your mind, your energy, your effort, your discipline. Nothing is going to jump out the fire. If you don't throw something in there, it's not going to happen.
You got to be it. It has to consume you. It has to take over you. That when I see you without even knowing you, I ought to be able to look at you, and from your ethos, I ought to see you are the best of the best. I ought to know what you're doing without you saying one word. It ought to illuminate from you.
Your job right now and how you execute that job is going to create the success habits that you're going to need down the road. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If it's making fries, if you ain't making the best motherfucking fries every fucking time, guess what? You ain't gonna fucking make it. If you can't sweep the warehouse floor better than the next guy, you ain't gonna fucking make it. Because here's the truth. Losers always talk about how they hate to lose, but they don't do anything about it. But you know what winners do? Winners will do whatever the fuck it takes. Winners will show up and stay late every fucking day until they're winning. Winners will talk to anybody they can that can help them and take the lessons to heart and put them in play. Losers talk about hating to lose. Losers say they hate to lose. Losers talk about how they want to win. Winners do what the fuck it takes.
Here's the big challenge of life. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. That's the challenge. And of course, the other side of the coin reads, unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you got. I have found in my experience that income does not far exceed personal development. Now, sometimes income takes a lucky jump, but sure enough, unless you grow out where it is, it'll usually come back where you are. Life has strange ways. If somebody hands you $1 million, best you become a millionaire quickly, so you get to keep the money. Otherwise, sure enough, it'll disappear. Somebody once said, if you took all the money in the world, divided it up equally among everybody, it would soon all be back in the same pockets. Incredible. Success is something you attract, not something you pursue. Success is looking for a good place to stay. So instead of going after it, you work on yourself. Personal development. See, the major question to ask on the job is not what are you getting? The major question to ask on the job is what are you becoming?
If you want to be successful, you have to change this. This has to change. Listen to me. What makes it hard is your lack of belief that it can happen for you. The fact of it is, though, it's very doable. See, but you got to change, though. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So if you're at a place in your life and you ain't happy with it, you have to change some things. But you have to make a conscientious decision that you're going to change. And it's not dependent on anybody else.
Every transformation always gets worse before it gets better. It's supposed to be that way. The journey you're embarking on is not an easy path. It's not for the ill-hearted or the weak-natured. It's for the strong people.
It's so easy to be great nowadays because so many people are focused on efficiency, getting the most for themselves with the least amount of time and effort. Let all of them leave the gym early, skip school, take sick days. Commit to becoming the motherfucker with a never-ending task list. This is where you make up the difference in potential. By learning to maximize what you do have, you will not only level the playing field, but also surpass those born with more natural ability and advantages than you. Let your hours become days, then weeks, then years of effort. Allow discipline to seep into your cells until work becomes a reflex as automatic as breathing. With discipline as your medium, your life will become a work of art. Discipline builds mental endurance because when effort is your main priority, you stop looking for everything to be enjoyable. Our phones and social media have turned too many of us inside out with envy and greed as we get inundated with other people's success, their new cars and houses, big contracts, resort vacations, and romantic getaways. We see how much fun everyone else is having and feel like the world is passing us by. So we bitch about it and then wonder why we are not where we want to be. When you become disciplined, you don't have time for that bullshit. Your insecurities become alarm bells reminding you that doing your chores or homework to the utmost of your ability and putting in extra time on the job or in the gym are requirements for a life well lived. A drive for self-optimization and daily repetition will build your capacity for work and give you confidence that you can take on more. With discipline as your engine, your workload and output will double, then triple. What you won't see, at least not at first, is the fact that your own personal evolution has begun to bear fruit. You won't see it because you'll be too busy taking action. Discipline does not have a belief system. It transcends class, color, and gender. It cuts through all the noise and strife. If you think that you are behind the 8 ball for whatever reason, discipline is the great equalizer. It erases all disadvantages. Nowadays, it doesn't matter where you are from or who you are. If you are disciplined, there will be no stopping you. Believe me, I know none of that comes easy. I struggled to get up before the sun on that first morning back on Sergeant Jack detail. I hadn't dealt with a 5-0 wake-up call in so long. It felt too sudden. I was lethargic as hell as the bed sucked me back into its cushy ass arms. The pull to stay lazy was stronger than it had ever been. That's how it works when you're trying to change. The call to remain complacent will only grow louder until you silence it with a pattern of behavior that leaves no doubt about your mission.
Learn your weaknesses. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. They could include a particular type of food like chocolate or social media like Instagram or the latest addictive video game. Whatever it is, it can have the same effect on everyone. Self-discipline starts with acknowledging your imperfections, regardless of how small they may be. People try to make their weaknesses disappear in order to project a strong person. This can be very ineffective when it is about self-discipline. This is a poor way to approach self-discipline. Acknowledge your faults. It is impossible to overcome them unless you do. Remove all temptations once you have admitted your weaknesses. Everybody has their weaknesses. This can include small things like a poor diet or a habit that can hinder productivity, such as playing video games for long periods of time. If you are able to recognize your weaknesses, it is possible to make accommodations that will help reduce the temptations. One example is if someone is trying to lose weight but knows that their weakness is eating chocolate after dinner every night, the temptation would be to not buy more chocolate. It would make it impossible for them to succumb to the temptation of eating chocolate, which could hinder their progress in getting fit. But they can still eat chocolate. This means they can now indulge in their favorite snacks once they have met a certain percentage of the goal. To be self-reliant, it is important that you reward yourself. Set the goals and create an implementation plan. For self-discipline to be maintained, one must have a clear view of the goals they are trying to achieve. You must also understand what success means for you. It's easy for someone to lose their way or get sidetracked if they don't know where their goal is or how to accomplish it. It is important to be clear and concise in your goals. Begin building your self-discipline. Self-discipline can be learned and is not something people are born with. Self-discipline, like all other skills that people want to learn, requires practice and repetition. The more you exercise your muscles, the stronger and bigger they will be. The process of making changes takes time. For example, to build muscles and expand them, it may take several weeks before you see the results. Training self-discipline takes a lot of focus and effort. As you become more disciplined, it becomes more difficult to use your willpower. Sometimes people feel more able to resist temptations or decisions than they do to be able to handle other tasks. A good mindset creates a buffer against how quickly your willpower gets drained. You will also be able to exert more willpower if it is done more often than if it were just started. A new habit is necessary to increase self-discipline. It can feel intimidating at first, especially when you're focusing on one goal at a time. You can avoid this overwhelming feeling by keeping it simple. Break down your big goal into smaller, manageable steps. Instead of trying for one large goal or trying to change all your habits, try to focus on just one thing each day and develop your self-discipline. To get in better shape, you can exercise for 10 to 15 minutes every day. It is better to set smaller goals than trying to hit the gym for 2 hours every day. This can be overwhelming. Start small and gradually increase your gym visits by establishing a routine. Once that goal becomes a habit, then you can focus on smaller goals and continue building words. Most researchers believe that there's a limit to the amount of willpower that we can use, but their research showed that those who believed that there was no limit had higher willpower stocks. They will probably not exceed their limits if they believe they have a limit on their willpower. But if someone doesn't have a set amount of willpower, they are less likely that they will reach their goals. In determining how much willpower a person has, a person's inner perception of their willpower and self-control plays a significant role. This is because if a person believes they have a large amount of willpower and can believe in themselves, they are less likely that they will lose it. Change the way that you think about your willpower. Think of it as a source that could run out, but which you can replenish through your beliefs. This mindset is much better than thinking that your willpower can run out. So be sparing with it.